It was a day that will forever be etched in the history of the universe. A day the universe would change whether it wanted to or not. It was a day in which pride and social status would stand off against the resolve to protect and the desire for peace. Peace lost. Inside the station, the great High Grand Leader flared his hood out in defiance of the father who was denying the surrender of his own family. For a few moments, the only movement came from a mother and her children as they tried to back out of the room they were in. The situation was so tense you could cut the tension with a knife if you so choose. Seeing the girl with the teal blue eyes reaching the doorway, the great High Grand Leader decided, "I will not be denied." With his arms and tail out of position, he struck out with his jaws, wrapping his mouth around the general's hand in an attempt to either break his arm with sheer bite force or sever it completely. Biting down, he suddenly realized that the human's arm had not broken. This shocked him since the Cumbra are constrictors after all, and their bite force is immense. One would think that this would be the last thing to go through his head. You would be wrong. The last thing to go through his head was the armor-piercing 45 caliber slug from the FN in the general's hand. The muffled shot made everyone pause. For another moment, everything was still. Slowly, the body of the great High Grand Leader slid off the general's arm, and the massive body slammed down onto the table. Then, gravity slowly slid it down to the floor. Still holding his pistol up, the general said, "Anyone else want to negotiate?" The rest of the Cumbra are shocked. All but Doc, of course. Doc understands how protective fathers can be of their children. And throughout all of human history, a strong father has been one of the required pillars of human society. Without one, or a strong surrogate, human society falls prey to any offensive forces. The Cumbra began yelling on either side of the body, mainly about, "What have you done? How could you do that? How dare you? This means war!" That last one made the humans laugh. "As though we haven't been at war for decades now," the general said defiantly. The president chimed in and said, "I believe this ends the peace talks for now. When you truly seek peace, we will be waiting." As the Cumbra slowly turned to leave under the watchful eyes of the human securities that had never lowered their weapons, the admiral spoke up. "Don't forget to take that piece of shit with you," as he motioned at the body of the former Great High Grand Leader. The Cumbras had some difficulty taking the body with them, as not only was he very large for a Cumbra, but the nerves of his body made the snake portions continually move and convulse as they carried him. Eventually, they ended up dragging the body on board of their own shuttle. Even the Cumbra security was shocked to see the body, so much that they didn't even put up a fight. They were just completely put on their, well, heels, if you want to call it that. The first thing they thought was the former Great High Grand Leader had been poisoned. That was until they saw his jaw flop open when they put the body down. This revealed massive amounts of trauma damage from the firing pistol inside a confined space, and what damage it causes is very messy. Seeing this, more than one of them lost control and vomited right there. Eventually, they sealed up, and as the shuttles left, the word was given. "Those convoy ships are allowed to leave. Once they leave the system, all vessels are clear to engage any enemy ships within human territory at their own discretion." Putting this out, not only through the comms but through the PA system, made everybody kind of look at each other weird, at least in that moment. Because even though you can't hear in space, the cheers of the station crew can be heard echoing clean through the bulkheads. As the general washed the blood off his arm later, the admiral walked in. "I'm surprised you didn't empty the magazine." Oh, the slide got caught on his tongue, the general said before dismantling the pistol and rinsing the blood off of it, and then, as doing so, having to remove a piece of said tongue that was stuck inside the upper receiver. Before he left to check on his family, the general turned to his friend. My men will be waiting for your call. Until then, I'm out of your hair. Now, go do what you and your sailors do best. Saying this, the creepy grin from the admiral made even the general a bit uncomfortable. Eventually, he reached his family, and the general saw that his two more feminine daughters are crying as they're in shock. Their mother is holding them, trying desperately to try and comfort them. But the general looked up and saw his son and, well, his tomboy daughter. He looked them both in the eyes and then looked over his daughter, brought them together, and said, Your training begins as soon as we get back. They all did have that good old-fashioned human hate in their eyes at what the Cumbra leader tried to do. Because of this, they all just nodded and said, Yes, father. After that, he went over to his wife and his two crying daughters. He held on to them as he felt the ship detach from the station. He had to reach out and hold on to the side to keep his balance, as he knows that things are going to get a bit busy. He had better get what little time he has with his family while he can. As the Cumbra ships docked with their dreadnought, the entire crew is watching a video sent by the humans. The video shows the entire meeting from the point of the ships locking onto the station to their exit to come back to the dreadnought. Everyone flinched at the muffled shot that was fired, and they all believed that the great High Grand Leader was impossible to kill. Now they watch as his body slowly is falling onto the floor, bleeding out of his mouth. Inside the dreadnought, as soon as they dock, all the secretaries try to take command. This infighting is so bad that the crew has no idea where to point their weapons, who to stop. The secretaries end up striking out at each other and made everything even worse. While they did this, a single secretary, who refused to get involved, simply slithers away quietly and gets to the bridge and contacts the captain, and all he says is, Get us out of here! When the ship jumps out of the system, everyone stops fighting. Not because somebody told them to, but mainly due to the fact that everyone is simply tossed to the stern of the ship as it jumps, and tossed forward towards the bow as they come out of it. Once back inside Columbus space, an emergency council meeting is called. As the body of the former Great High Grand Leader is brought to his estate for burial, the rest of the council squabble over what to do next. There is a question, and, of course, demands, that the seat of the Great High Grand Leader be filled. No one gets a majority vote, though, due to everyone voting for themselves. Representative of the large houses claim that the seat is theirs when threats given to the smaller houses fail to reach a solid effect, i.e., not get enough votes. The chaos continues as they go on to another topic, the only other topic. What to do about the humans. Again, the larger houses raise their voices, all claiming that the humans need to be brought to heel. They want to subjugate the humans for exploitation, and once they have everything they need from the humans, it's extermination. As the larger houses cried for war, the smaller houses refused, realizing they'd just be used as cannon fodder anyway. The calls to show their patriotism, to serve the larger houses that have shown nothing but contempt of them, fall on deaf ears. Seeing what looks like human defiance, many of the smaller houses are expelled from the council. Those not expelled, yet had still been bullied by the larger houses, willingly slither away. Once outside the council, the smaller houses begin to talk amongst themselves. Despite what the great houses claim, they realize that they are not alone, and that simple realization is enough. It is not long after at all before the large houses rally their forces. It's an unspoken rule that the house that secures the most territory, materials, or the one that would take the humans' homeworld would find themselves the next great high grand leader, and they all wanted the position. Within human territory, though, things are not idle. Every ship is being double, triple, and quadruple checked for ready status. The civilian ships included, usually only carrying the minimum amount of ammunition for their weapons, as it saves space. But now, oh no. Now they're triple checking their own weapons and loading all magazines to full capacity and then some. So much so that as a common phrase is, if I'm gonna die from internal ammo explosion, I want to be seen from Earth. The assault carriers are of a great interest to humanity due to their expense. In this age of space warfare, a carrier is very niche, an extremely niche ship, especially for the military. With a total of 4 of these, though, as expensive they are, losing one would be horrifyingly bad. Still, the general looked at them, as well as the support craft that go with them, and gave the same predatory grin as his admiral buddy. The Cumbra plan was set into motion. Only a short 17 days since the body of the former Great High Grand Leader was returned to his compound. 17 days since the Cumbra almost tore themselves to pieces through infighting. 17 days since the smaller houses realized the only way to win this game was not to play. 17 days of loading up every single ship that can traverse the ether of space with as much weapons, ammo, personnel, and support they can muster. 17 days after they return from human space, the Cumbra start heading back. Their plan is relatively simple. Attack the humans on every possible angle, overwhelm them with numbers and firepower, destroy their fleets, secure their stations, invade their worlds, and once you do so, to the victor go the spoils. As a side note, the more humans captured alive and the more materials taken, the better they're going to look. Of course, you must be able to take the planet intact, so simply glassing it's not going to work. With this plan, the houses begin their assault. From the time of the first Cumbra battle group coming in to the time the last one reaches human space was 191 minutes. 191 minutes in total for 11 sectors to be invaded by hostile forces. Alarms blared out across the emptiness of space. On the ships, both sides look at the enemy on the edge of the sector or next to a planet and say, okay, let's do this. As the invading Cumbra fleets approach, they demand that the humans surrender, beg for mercy, and perhaps, just perhaps, then they will still live as slaves. The human response was always the same and very simple. Come and get some. You're all gonna die.